Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports Soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports, joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, we're going to be doing an Arnold Clark Cup recap. Lots to get into here. England, champions of this inaugural tournament. We're going to chat all about it. But first, a quick reminder to follow us on Twitter for all breaking news at Attacking Third. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, welcome. You can hit subscribe so that you never miss our exclusive interviews or whenever we go live. And you could drop us some comments in the chat if you like. We would love to hear from you as always. Lisa, how you doing today? Ready to chat all things Arnold Clark Cup?
I am so ready to chat it. This was a fabulous tournament. I've got to say that. I loved it. I really enjoyed the competition of it. I'm honestly glad for England that they won because they were hosting it, right?
Yeah.
Like it could have crossed into the embarrassing territory there. But they didn't. Came out on top, and we're going to dive into all the nitty-gritty details of it. But Sandra, how are you? I mean, inaugural Arnold Clark tournament. Did you like it? You like the vibe?
This whole little international window that we just sort of are bidding farewell to, right? These last 8 days or so, 10 days or so, where we had Arnold Clark Cup, there was She Believes Cup, right? There's for us watching in the region, it's CONCACAF W qualifiers. There was just so much going on, not even mentioning the other tournaments like the Algarve Cup or to Northern France, like all of this stuff going on. So I loved it. I loved everything happening. I love that we were able to watch Arnold Clark Cup stateside, right? Paramount Plus, being able to take in these games. And I love that it came down to it final day where everyone, each team in their own kind of way, could have had a shot at claiming this inaugural title. But it was a thrilling finish, to say the least, right?
It definitely was. I mean, even heading into today, which was the last match day, final 2 games amongst this tournament, it was the standings were tight. It almost, I mean, you and I talked about this off mic yesterday, earlier this week after last match day, that Canada could win this. It started this morning. If Canada won this morning, they would have won it all, but that's not how it happened. And I think that's what makes for such an exciting tournament and makes a lot of people tune in, because it comes down to the very last match of this game and goal differential and yellow card differential of who's going to come out on top of this one, and fun, exciting, unusual tournaments like this with unusual casts of characters and these 4 nations. A lot of fun. Honestly, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know when we previewed this a little bit, obviously the thing that stood out to us the most was, yeah, sure, it's an inaugural tournament hosted by England, right? 4 teams, but they're all top 10 team, FIFA ranked teams in the world: Spain, Germany, England. And then we were like, hey, look, there's a little bit of a CONCACAF component in this, and having Canada be a part of it. And I think just the kickoff, right, to sort of see, we had a bunch of draws, right, to sort of kind of open up the tournament, and it's round robin style. But the final rankings is how things ended up shaking out. It ended up being that there was still a potential winner for the final day. Nothing was decided until the final match day. And I love that. I love that there was going to be this sort of double header involved. We had Spain and Canada on one end, and then England and Germany on the other. And it was just one of those things where it's like we weren't going to know until we know, right? So let's maybe take a look at that earlier match that kicked off. It was Canada versus Spain. Spain walking away with a 1-0 win over Canada. Canada starting out the match day, right, at the top of this table. They had 2 points over everybody else, right? It was kind of like, is this CONCACAF, team gonna go ahead and maybe shock the Europeans, right, on European soil? But that was not meant to be on this day. Alexias Puttelas, right, having her say in this one, and that Barcelona midfield that we saw really throughout all of the match. Talk about logging some minutes over the course of this tournament. That was maybe one of the other big takeaways I think that we took from this Spain side going in when we did this preview. talking a little bit about the roster in front, right? That was going to be participating in this, and how 10 of the players across Spain's roster were members of FC Barcelona. So there was a ton of
Mhm.
familiarity there, right? But to see that midfield kind of trio to sort of stay and
Yeah.
get these minutes, in and out, and I think we started to see maybe the legs kind of come into play a little
Yes.
bit down the stretch. It was almost going to be a wild finish there between these two sides.
This match between Canada and Spain was honestly one of the better ones. I mean, looking just at today, I think the final match was the most exciting for me. But this one was a good one when you look at the overall of the tournament. Canada is a team that really needs to be tested, and head coach for them, Bev Priestman, took this Arnold Clark Cup tournament as a chance to kind of try different things, showcase different styles of players and different personnel. I mean, we saw goalkeeper Kaylin Sheridan being subbed out halfway through this match, which to a lot of people was a bit surprising, but she needs to do that as a head coach and heading into a World Cup qualifying summer and a World Cup year, coming off of an Olympic gold medal. Have different goalkeepers step into net and try out different patterns. But this Spanish side was lethal. They did get tired towards the end, but it was really fun for me as if just a fan and purely a bystander to watch. Canada had a difficult time breaking down Spain's defense, and kind of unlocking them, picking them apart. Canada did get really good shots, right? They had a banger off the post, right off the woodwork. It was near miss for them, near miss. But ultimately, I mean, Canada also was missing big name players like Christine Sinclair, which I think allowed the flexibility for head coach Bev Priestman to switch things up, try different players in different positions. And it almost showed a lot for this Canada side as they look ahead to the future, as well as all of these teams. I mean, these are friendly matches that was happening. Yes, to come out with the cup and the trophy is so important, but these are just friendlies leading up to CONCACAF W Championship, the Women's Euros, all of which are happening this summer and this July of 2022 that these nations and these teams are preparing for.
Yeah, I thought there was maybe a second there when we saw really this game go into stoppage time almost, where I
Yeah.
was like, "Whoa, 6 minutes of stoppage time! Like this is going to be a chaos o'clock, right?" I like anytime you get more than 5 minutes of stoppage time. I think I always sort of say that you're entering chaos territory, right? When you have that much. So anything more than that, when I saw six go up there, I was like, "Oh
I
no."
know. It's
I
a
was like, we could
long
that's a
time.
long time, and we could maybe see something happen here. And we started to see, some different looks here, some more pressing, more urgency. Loved watching Ashley Lawrence throughout this entire
Yes.
tournament. When we were doing our previews for Attacking Third, when we were doing them, for CBSSports.com, she was a player that we had as a player to watch. Just really sort of embodies really what I think coaches are looking for when we're looking at the progression of that kind of fullback position, right, in this era of women's football. So watching her sort of really try to pull the strings and really try to spearhead something for Canada, especially down the stretch there, and just to not see it kind of pay dividends. It was like, so close, right?
Yep.
But something I think of interest to talk about with when I'm talking about her is maybe that kind of late game scenario where we saw the yellow issued with the dive.
Yes, this was probably one of the craziest dives I've ever seen. I mean, it happening watching it in real time, I was like, "Huh, did I miss something there?" Because it didn't look like a foul even in
Yeah.
real time, and then as soon as you saw the slow-mos, it was like, "Okay, this is just a complete and utter dive," which we actually saw something, a similar, like, no VAR situation happening in the later game between Germany and England that we'll get into. But the no VAR in this tournament allows for teams to play a little cheeky like that. I mean, I like, why not? Like, go for it. But this was a little bit crazy. As you talked about, like, all the things that were happening, a lot of these players for the Canada side, you have to remember, are in preseason with their NWSL clubs in the States. So that's also, like, goes into effect, is some of these players are in the middle of their season, some of them are in their preseason and a little bit out of form. It's a little bit all over the place. So okay, so what did you think of the dive, Sandra? What did you think of the yellow in the dive?
I absolutely laughed a little bit. I think we see that, and you're just kind of like, yeah. So I mean, I think in the moment, I think maybe the urgency of the moment, you can get caught up in your head a little bit, right? So we see Chloe Lacasse sort of make a move. Like she made a choice, right? That's a
Yeah.
conscious choice to make for you. But I think it's she's gonna look back and maybe be a little disappointed at it, in that she had already done enough work to be a defender prior to that, right? So just go ahead and make your case, so to speak. And she opted for that instead. And the yellow came quickly, honestly.
It
Uh,
did.
it was like you're not fooling kind of anybody on this day, right? So it's unfortunate to see, but I'm in agreement with you. I think it's a important thing to note, right? That there's a when you're looking at Canada's roster, there's a chunk of players who are with NWSL sides kind of going through their preseasons right now. Maybe there's a bit of rust that still needs to be kicked off. And then on the other side, you could take a look at a number of players on this roster who are playing in Europe, right? And who are a little bit more informed. So when we're watching this game, seeing somebody like in Ashley Lawrence, doing what she was doing, watching Jessie Fleming, right, getting covering what looked like every blade of grass
Yeah.
out there
Yeah.
at one point, even watching Kadisha Buchanan having to clean up some things, right? Players that are clearly informed and playing, with their European sides right now. But it just you kind of wondered if maybe there was going to be, that sense of urgency that they were playing with towards the end was
Mhm.
going to pay off, but unfortunately, it just didn't. So with the results,
And
this
also the
one,
goal from Spain and Alexias Puttelas came so early on in the 21st minute, which ultimately shifted kind of the rest of the match for both sides because Canada now is playing catch up. Even like heading into the half, it was almost like, okay, we're down a goal. You have to put a little bit more urgency into what you're doing. And Spain at that point was like, we're going to bunker down. We're going to play really solid defense and not let you in, Canada. And that's really what happened. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
this 1-0 scoreline started the day very interesting.
I just think that it just says the loss, I think, says a lot about, right, Canada, and I think the win also says
Yeah,
even more about Spain. It's
very
just one
well
of these
put.
things where it's just like maybe we wanted to see a little bit different things tactically, from Canada. Maybe we didn't get to see that throughout a ton of this tournament. And then on the other side, you're looking at a team like Spain, who has a number of players who are, already familiar with each other, have the best player in the world, right, on their team in Alexias Puttelas. Watching them put together this performance and sort of having it just be like a one goal win and still
I
sort of
know.
see them do what they did on the pitch. They're an incredibly, like, beautifully frustrating team to play. And I love watching it in any capacity that we're able to get. And so with this result, it stood at the time that Spain had a likely shot at claiming this title in the Arnold Clark Cup, though there was still another game that had to be played. So it was thrilling, I think, for me. Like, why I know you and I were texting each other a little bit, like
Yeah.
messaging each other. So like even knowing during this game, it's like, oh gosh, like there's still more soccer that we need to chat about here. But I think even in the moment, just staying in the moment of things, I think we can both agree at the time, like watching a team like Spain, we're just like, gosh, like this team is doing something very special right now. It just made us
Well,
amped for like the
yes.
Euros,
So heading into this Arnold Clark Cup, it was dubbed as the top 4 teams in top 10 FIFA rankings. I'm sorry, 4 of the top 10 teams in FIFA rankings. I'm getting so excited I can't speak. And Spain listed as the lowest in that at number 9 ranking. They played well above a number 9 ranking against Canada today. And I don't know if it's almost like the mindset and like chip on their shoulder and Spain as being seen as not maybe a nation that could come into this Arnold Clark and steamroll. I know when we talked about it, we were like, Germany is going to be tough to break down, and England is the host, and Canada is gold medal winners. So, what's going to happen with Spain? And Spain showed up. They were looking to prove themselves, and it's really setting the tone ahead of the women's Euros in this upcoming summer. I mean, Spain fantastic, really fun to watch, and getting on the board early definitely played into their game plan of how they could be a bit more defensive minded throughout the second 60 minutes of the match.
Yeah, whether it was watching somebody like Mapi Leon, right, on the back line,
Mhm.
just sort of making sure that never was a moment of, tense moment for them on the defensive side of things Putellas obviously doing what she does, and,
Oh,
having Del Castillo
fun
sort
to
of being
watch.
able to also pull strings, and that opening goal, just finally watching them have it all click and connect, and being able
Yeah.
to utilize such minimal space at some time, but still be able to find these lanes. It was very, very impressive and delightful to see. So it was exciting. I think it set the stage, I think, even more for us, knowing that there was going to be a second defining match right later on in the day between England and Germany. And Lisa and I will take a deeper dive into that match specifically right after a quick break.
Europe's top teams.
This is Neymar!
Europe's top talent, all competing.
Oh, that is beautiful!
To be crowned champion. The UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Europa League. Stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
Big match against England and Germany. Again, during watching these teams play throughout the round robin style, just sort of seeing how maybe even at times it kind of felt, while at other times you could sort of see like this isn't really clicking. I mean, again, during our we'll throw it back to our preview a little bit here, Lisa, when we were talking about Germany specifically, right? Probably the biggest storyline around them coming into this tournament was the fact that they're missing a lot of players. There was a ton of players that they were potentially going to have going to this tournament, then players who had to be pulled out due to injury. And there was a little bit of a question mark of how they perhaps were going to go ahead and perform in this type of event.
I think that comes down to a lot of it in this one, because Germany was missing over a dozen of their normal starters for this national team, whether it was due to COVID or some injuries that they were picking up and still nagging a little bit. Because of that, though, it was truly next man up mentality for Germany. And I think that those younger players, or maybe players that don't have as many caps or as much experience as the more veteran players, were looking to prove themselves in this one, because again, the Euros are coming up, and this is where these nations start to build for their team and their roster because of that. But yeah, I mean, Germany has always been lethal, and they've always been consistent in what they do so well and what they are lethal at. It's relentless defense. It's using the flanks. It's sending crosses into the box, and then it's getting back on defense and swarming the ball. It's been the same for years for them. They know what they're doing. And so then to kind of watch them against this English side was a great match. I mean, of course, we knew everything was on the line, right? The Arnold Clark Cup title, the inaugural title, was on the line. England, as hosts of this tournament, had a lot of pressure on them because they hosted this tournament. They brought it all together. You want to bring home the cup when you're hosting a tournament in its inaugural season, but now it comes down to the wire against Germany and an English side that didn't really control their destiny up until this final match. And that's really just kind of how the chips fell in this tournament. When you look at Germany and England, I mean, watching this game, were you expecting this outcome? I mean, 3-1 ultimately in the end.
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not going to say that I was expecting a 3-1, but I think with the way the tournament shook out, with the way this final match day shook out, I don't know how you're not the Lionesses, right? Keeping an eye on what's going on as the hosts in your inaugural cup and saying, okay, now we know, like, this is our job. Our job is to go out there and to win. So I don't know if anybody really saw, a 3-1, England against the German side here. But let me tell you, the way in which it happened, thrilling to say the least. I also really just liked, I think my favorite thing about this match was maybe really seeing this is what this era of England women's national team football is gonna be, right? There's been a little bit of chatter about Serena Wigman and her arrival to this program, and is this going to be the head coach to take this national team to glory, right? And to sort of be the one to implement that type of winning culture when it comes to titles, right? And sort of seeing this team and sort of seeing what they kind of were putting out there tactically, specifically within this final match alone. I
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed it. That she was someone who showed that she's not really afraid to roll the dice, when it matters tactically in this match. And I think to credit the roster, to credit the players, there's a level of buy-in there. There has to be a level of trust in which it goes both ways, right? Where you've got your coach making these mid-game adjustments and then the person on the pitch saying, okay, like we know what to do. Let's go. Let's execute, right? So we kind of
Yes.
saw that really come into play more in the second half and the later stretches of the game, because in early parts of the game, we kind of saw kind of an even match, I think.
Yeah, I mean, England scoring first, getting on the board with a goal from Ellen White. I mean, really pretty goal, honestly, team goal for them. I mean, dribbling right down the center. It made Germany's defense look weak at that point in the game, which the Germans defense is not weak by any means, but for Ellen White and also Fran Kirby able to just combine and get right into the box. A really nice flick on from Fran Kirby. Holy cow, watching Kirby play is so fun. It's fun. Like this match was, I mean, I had no stakes in it. I was just watching it for fun and to recap it on here and because I love football. And it was a lot of enjoyable football to watch because of that. Yeah, I mean, England is a team that can play, and ultimately to see how their game plan unfolded towards the end of this match after going up a goal and then conceding one to the German side, which levels the game up at halftime heading into the tunnel. It's 1-1 for both of these sides. For England, that's, I think, where a lot of the conversation happened at halftime of assessing the first 45 minutes of the match and what Germany was doing really well against England, and that's using the flank, sending very dangerous crosses into the box. And England kind of saying, okay, Millie Bright, can you score for us again? Because she had scored earlier in the tournament, and kind of looking at all of the pieces of the puzzle. Also, we saw a little bit of rotation happening for this English side in the second half as well. But I mean, the changes coming from England in the 80th minute that changed everything for this game. And I don't know if we're jumping to that yet or if we're going to talk about the first 70 minutes of this one.
No, let's talk about the ending. Let's do it.
Yes. The best part of this game, 80th minute, England they have everything on the line at home in front of fans that they have for this friendly tournament. They're looking to win their inaugural tournament. And at the 80th minute or so, England decides to lose their outside backs, and they go with a 3-back, which sends Millie Bright, who is the center back, a tremendous player for the English national team, to the front line. She can score goals. She can do anything. She's really one of those players that's like, if you give her a job, she's going to do it to her fullest. And at that point, it was like, all right, Millie Bright, can you score a goal for us? Puts her up top. At this point, it's dangerous because the Germans are very good at using the flanks of the field. And now England doesn't have outside backs to apply pressure to the flanks. So when they get the ball wide, the entire English back line, which is just 3 of them, need to slide over to the flanks, which leaves the entire backside of the net wide open. Luckily for England, though, I mean, Lauren Hemp, holy cow, just slithering her way through defenders and making her way towards goal. Millie Bright scores in the 84th minute, so just 4 minutes after this huge formational tactical change that England throws out there. And then a couple minutes of added stoppage time, about 10 minutes later, 94th minute, third or fourth minute into the stoppage time, another goal from England, and they end this one 3-1. But the goals happening between the 84th and the 94th minute, the most exciting goals happening. All of the really fun, exciting action happening then. This was so fun to kind of watch unravel towards the end of this match.
Yeah, absolutely. And you sort of saw the scenes there, right? In the broadcast, watching the shots of Spain, watching, the results and how things were going to shake out or how they were going to play out. But I loved it, even though it got really amped up towards the end. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The drama that people sort of live for. But I love the way these goals ended up developing, right? You had the one, like you said, Lisa, coming right out of that adjustment tactically, and then seeing not only Fran Kirby, right, really spearheading that go ahead goal in that 84th minute or so, but then getting one of her own in stoppage time. It just sort of like felt like correct, right? It's like,
A goal,
yes, it's like this
yes,
is how it needed to go down.
a goal
Super
that
Fran
Fran
Kirby.
Kirby Yes, a goal that Fran Kirby did not need, that the English did not need in this moment. I mean, she gets the ball on a breakaway. I love Fran Kirby at the 10. She deserves to play there as that striker. She could have, right? I mean, the broadcast was saying this. She could have gone to the corner. She could have just held the ball, passed it around, kept possession for England as the final minute or so of the stoppage time was winding down on the clock. Instead, she goes straight to goal. Cheeky little move around the last defender and finds the back of the net. She needed that, right? Like, she was so pumped after that one. She needed it.
Yeah.
She needed to put a little Fran Kirby magic on the game.
No, I loved it. I love going for the statement, right? I love going for the statement, putting it on ice, versus just kind of maybe playing it safely. If the space is there and you have a player like Kirby who has, the intelligence to say, "Hey, I'm going to expose this."
Yeah.
Why not? Like it ended up it was a lovely little goal too. That's just sort of kind of close
A nice little
things out.
bow on the game and the tournament.
Yeah, it's like, yes, it's like we're hosting this. We wanted to do this, and we're taking this title. We're keeping it for ourselves. I loved it. Absolutely. Between Kirby, Hemp, I mean, England is really showing out a little bit, right? Yeah, I'm absolutely high. If nothing else with this tournament, I think it's made a lot of people hyped for the Euros and upcoming qualifiers for how they're gonna shake out.
Right.
But it was a delight. It was a delight being able to cover this during this time, being able to watch it right on Paramount Plus, stateside of things, and I loved watching the reactions, from people on social, right? Because
Yeah.
like, in case people don't know, we typically put highlights on our Attacking Third YouTube page, so people reacting to that, people reacting to goal clips on Twitter. It was nice, and here's to many more. Arnold Clark Cup tournament. We will see what happens in the future.
But as you mentioned, I mean, the Euros. Ooh, I am so excited for this. I mean, more nations involved. I think it'll be really fun to see these three, specifically German, England, and Spain, go at each other again in the Euros when there's so much more on the line. I think maybe we'll see a little bit of different personnel in that sense. I know for Germany, they're hoping they have a lot more of their star power back because they were missing so many players for these friendlies in this tournament. Yeah, I mean, this is fun. It's games, Sandra. We talked about this. It's games. We have matches happening.
Yeah.
We have things that we get to cover and watch. And I love it. God, football is back.
I love to come on here and do that soccer. That was for all my European birds tuning in and watching us. Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you all, as always, for joining along with us here on Attacking Third whenever we go live or whenever we're recording. You can follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third for much, much more. Go ahead and follow us on at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast shows. You can leave us a 5-star review now on Spotify. And if you actually have any questions for us, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with your question, and Lisa and I will answer it during a mailbag segment. We're also available as videos, so you can subscribe. Just go ahead and hit subscribe right on that YouTube page at youtube.com/Attacking Third. And we'll be back with another live tonight, following the She Believes tournament. So just stay tuned for that. USA versus Iceland. Is it going to be a European sweep? I don't know. We'll see. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.